Professional development and support for educators is an essential part of children's social and emotional learning and development. But the early childhood sector doesn't have an abundance of time, money or resources to ensure that everyone is able to participate in ongoing professional development. One of the ways early childhood services can build in professional development and support into their daily routine is reflective practice. It's one of the principles in both the Early Years Learning Framework and Kids Matter Early Childhood. Everyone is talking about it, but what is it? And how can you use it to support your practice as an educator?
I think reflective practice and reflective supervision allows an educator to have some space to think about what they're actually doing in their work, and an opportunity to kind of flesh out different understandings of what's actually going on with their children and family in their care, and to think about different ways of being with the child if what they're doing is not working, or if they're having particular struggles with a child in their care, to have the space to step back and try and understand what's going on, and therefore alter their way of being in that situation. So I think it's really an ongoing kind of professional development opportunity, reflective practice. Specifically if there's an issue, to kind of make some time with a peer or with a manager to step back and reflect on what's going on with the child and in the room. The more it happens, the more you build a culture of reflective thinking in an early education and care centre.
Reflective practice really is the only antidote for the complexity of the work that we do. It's the only way we can navigate our way through it all, because the more I talk to early childhood educators, the more I realise, and the more I reflect on my own work with children and families in the settings that I've worked in, the more I realise that there will be so many different variations on family life and the complexities that children bring to the story that we need to think about together. And it's only really by doing that we understand how relationships are played out. It's only when we make time to reflect and think about what is going on here and how we are part of it and what are the buttons that are being pushed for us, that we figure out how we were going to be genuinely building a relationship. It doesn't mean to say that it will always go well and according to plan, but that's where again reflective practice is again the only antidote. We need to go back into reflective practice and go, well, that went badly, why did that happen? And think through that process. So in fact, through a reflection process, we act differently. Reflection is not about navel gazing and just spending time thinking about thinking. Reflective practice at its best is an opportunity to think about what we would do differently. It may be that we decide that we would do exactly the same thing, but it's the decision actively to decide, I will do the same thing again, because that was a genuine, well thought out, well researched, theoretically sound, in line with the big thinking in the Early Years Learning Framework, and I would do that again.
It's valuable to take time and come together to reflect on practice. You might do this as incidental to your day-to-day work, or it might be planned events. To capitalise on everyday moments, stop and take a moment. It's easy to get caught up in the busy environment in the early childhood service. Slow down and consider what is going on right here and now for you and the children in your care. Share in conversations with your colleagues. Talking with others can offer a different perspective. Reflect on the purpose and intention of experiences that you offer in your service. Plan formal opportunities such as a regular time to come together with your colleagues to join in professional discussions. Scheduling a time on the agenda at team meetings for reflection. Using this time to share alternative views on a significant issue for your service. Keeping a journal of significant events along with your reflections. Let's hear how an educator used a form of reflective practice to guide her work with a child who was new to the service.
One of the things that we've asked educators to do in the past where I've worked in many centres is, the social stories and the journeys that they have with children, but to do those for themselves. So I read a piece of work recently from an educator that I work with, and she wrote a beautiful reflective kind of essay on her journey with this child that was brought into her care, who couldn't make eye contact with her. He was very distressed and unsettled and avoidant, like this. And she talked about having time to build the relationship with him and the tactile physical contact that she needed to have with him to encourage him, and the relationship that she had with his mother and the importance of him witnessing her with his mother. She paid attention to so much detail because she tried to step into the shoes of the child and just get a sense of how it might be for him coming into the centre, and taking into account the context of the world he'd come from and is living in, and what role the care and education plays in that context.
As well as reflective practice, there are other ways of developing a culture of professional development and support. Different ideas might come up as you progress, learn and reflect. One of the most valuable aspects of an early childhood service is the relationships that exist within it. These relationships can be a resource when thinking about professional development and support. Relationships are a way for educators to share knowledge, build confidence in their developing skills through professional conversations or mentoring. Relationships between an early childhood service and its surrounding community also bring opportunities for professional development and support. Talk with other agencies to see the potential for guest speakers to come to your service. Network with other services to share the costs if they seem out of your reach on your own. See what training organisations are offering in your area. There is also an increasing number of online opportunities such as webinars, podcasts, forums or discussion groups. Other approaches to staff development and support include staying up to date with news and emerging practice in the early childhood sector through e-newsletters, websites and other key resources. You might decide to establish or improve your resource library to make resources available to educators. There is a range of professional development and support practices that can help create a culture of learning at an early childhood service. There is not a one-size-fits-all solution. What works for one service may not work in another, so find out what will work best for you.